has come to finally get some work done in the shed, in Bear's shed. And the way this boat's been delivered back to me, there's a couple of people had a go at it previously who have cut out the forepeak from the runabout and actually cut out the deck to make the centre console type area, so it elongated the whole thing. Problem is I got delivered it back obviously with a deck in one place and a hull in another. So we're going to put the deck and hull back together. So what I need to do is go back and secure it all the way around the edge with some screws just to get it back into the right place. And then what I'm going to do is actually go around with some fiberglass on the inside, tag it, then remove the screws because the screws are protruding through from the outside in. And I'll go right around after that, after the fiberglass has gone off. It's held nice and secure, and that way I'll get a strip of fiberglass all the way around holding the deck and hull together. Now that's actually stronger than the original, which was actually just held together originally with screws and some gunnel rubber. So we're actually going to make this boat stronger than it ever was. I just brought in my little mate Zach to help me here. G'day Zach, how you going? Mate? Good mate. So we're basically, it's a bit of a two-handed operation because it's hard to get the flange to go right back down in its original position. So in some places we're lifting it up with a screwdriver, just prising it up a little bit. And in other places we've actually had to rub a mallet onto it just to bang it down to get it back down into position. But we're just popping some screws into it, making sure it's in the right posi, and that'll hold securely while I get some fiberglass tags inside it. Going to be a little bit hard to show you what I'm talking about here, but we're going to be fiberglassing from the inside out. Now, this has already been flow coated, but thankfully flow coats the interior colouring in here, the speckle coat. But the problem is you need to have raw fiberglass to actually bond to fiberglass. So thankfully, when they've painted the inside of the hull here, or flow coated the inside of the hull, they've actually left a gap of about that much of raw fiberglass. So I don't have to go through with the grinder and clean it off. I can actually just fiberglass the whole flange without having to worry about grinding, which is bloody good news. Now my little mate Zach here, this is fiberglass. I think this is 360 or 380 GSM. Used to be a couple of ounces in the old days when I went to school. But my little mate Zach just said, do you want some scissors or a knife to cut it? Well, I don't. I actually just tear it off by hand. And the reason being, so that way I'll make that into little tabs to glass it up with. And the reason being, see the sharp edge there from the corner of that? When you put it up into place, that sharp edge becomes a sharp edge forever and doesn't blend. When it's a soft edge,
well, you can cut it in.
It cuts in, looks like the rest of the boat, and blends into the whole thing. So you don't even see that you've added fiberglass to the fiberglass.
There you go.
How about that? Here's a little tip. Bear's tip 101. Okay, a couple of things you need for fiberglassing. Number one, it is important to have gloves. There you go. These are the little silicone gloves, but they break down a bit over time, so you're better off with a thick pair, but I hate working with thick pairs, they just drive me mad. Roller. Okay, this is probably a fairly large roller for the job we're going to do, but a roller for rolling the glass out once it's in there. I've already got somewhere a brush ready to go as well. Here it is over there. No worries. Got a stick, but for the amount we're going to mix here, I'll just stir it with the brush so we don't have to worry about sticks and things. That's easy. So for the amount of glass I've got there, you just estimate. Look, a lot of people are fairly lousy and you know, won't use a lot of resin, and it is quite expensive stuff, but yeah, I'd rather mix a little bit more than I need than a little bit less than what I need. And there we go. So basically, a normal brew is going to be around 1% of catalyst. Now the catalyst is the mean stuff. I can put my hand in there and not really worry, wipe it off with acetone, and to me not really a drama. To a lot of people it might be. But the catalyst is actually, I think in the old days, I think it still is, methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. Yuck. Alright, so be careful when handling the catalyst. Pretty nasty stuff. It's definitely a peroxide, which means it's a pretty nasty stuff. It's going to eat through you, not going to do you any good at all. About 1% is a normal brew. So 1 part per, what's that, 1 part per 100, somewhere around there. We'll make it a bit hotter, somewhere around there. The purist fiberglasses amongst us will have a go at me about that. You know, it should be precise, it should be this, it should be that. Yeah, right, okay, no worries. At the end of the day, as long as you've got enough in there, but not too much, because if you put too much in it, it gets very hot. And in fact, I've seen brews that are too hot go off really, really quickly, but any of the leftover can actually almost catch a light. It'll actually smoke up, no worries. It gets that much heat into it. So we don't want that situation because it'll actually weaken the fiberglass. Alright, so we have catalysed resin. We have our fiberglass over here. So let's go and do some glassing. You can't see this, but in the time it's taken to go and reposition the camera and come around into the boat, get ready for glassing, you can, I've actually got quite a warm brew here because it's starting to bubble up already. The colour has also changed with the resin, and that's an indicator that it is all mixed through properly. So away we go, and this is where the messy bit begins. So, there's a lot of different ways of doing this. My way is paying slop it on. I don't care about making a bit of mess. I'll grind it off again a bit later. Wet out the area that you're going to be glassing. Slap a bit of fiberglass up into it as a tag. A bit hard to see up in here, I know, but you get the general gist of it. So that's going halfway between the deck and the hull, and it's returning right through on the outside. I'll give you a glimpse at wetting out some fiberglass a bit later when we get a better angle on it, but then just wet it into place. Make sure she's nice and wet all the way through. There's nothing worse. There's no strength in dry fiberglass. It's got to be wet right out. There's a bonding material or substance in the cloth that actually dissolves when the resin hits it. So each of those little fibres actually becomes an independent piece on its own in a cross-woven type scenario. We just roll it out. So once we've wet it, roll it out. Make sure there's not too much air in there. It's going to be hard to get all the air out in a place like this because it's so hard to get into. And there you go. Once that goes off, that is going to have, in some ways, the breaking strength of steel. Very, very strong stuff, fiberglass, but it also stays flexible, which you need in a boat. Voila! Doesn't really matter if we sort of slap it on a fair whack and get some resin running around the place because we're going to have to re-flow coat the inside in any case, so it's more important to make sure you get the job right than it is trying to keep the finish good at this stage. You can always run through it with a grinder and a sander and make it look a bit better. So the job is more important than the finish at this stage. It's also a bit hard sometimes glassing upside down, particularly like this. You'll notice I've got the fan running at the moment because the fumes are pretty bad in here. Probably not good for you. Most people would say I should be wearing a respirator, and I probably should. Make sure she's nice and wet. And you can tell when it's done properly because the fiberglass goes clear when it's properly wet out. If it's still got white in it, it's basically still a bit dry. I'm actually doing a better job with the brush than I am with the roller in this position. The roller just gets that resin spread all the way through the fiberglass nice and easy, nice and evenly. Voila. Done. Alright, well it's a pretty messy process, the old fiberglass, and don't even attempt it if you're a bit scared of some fumes, a bit scared of getting dirty, and certainly scared of getting itchy, because you're going to get itchy. Fiberglass dust is itchy stuff. At the end of the day, the cleanup's quite important, and obviously the solvent we use for fiberglass is acetone. So I have a little bucket of acetone that I put my roller and my brush. A lot of the times I just use disposable brushes, so they just throw away items. Because quite often the acetone will melt the brush in any case, or at least melt the paint off the hand like it's all gooey and grimy. So, but a good wash out in acetone, and of course that's all your tools and equipment. Make sure you do the roller really well, because they really stick and bind. And then acetone on a wet rag, and seriously, probably going to have a few people who don't like what I'm saying, but acetone all over you, just get the stuff off you wherever you think you've got it, particularly doing a job like that where you're upside down, you've got drips coming all over you. Just wipe your whole self down, get rid of that resin, otherwise you're going to find it everywhere from here to eternity, including in your hair. Safety equipment should be done. I mean, the fumes here are quite bad, particularly working in a confined place like that. The fan was ultra important, trying to get right up in the bow with your head, with the fiberglass, with the fumes. And it's only a cool day. It's probably only 18 degrees here at the moment, but I was still copping the fumes really bad. So safety equipment is vitally important, no doubt. Or else you'll end up as silly as an old bear. So believe it or not, it's the day after we've tagged the whole thing all the way around. So it's the hull and the deck are all held nice and secure now by the fiberglass from the inside. So now I can take out the screws that we've left in the side, and that way I can run all the way around with another layer of fiberglass, give it a really good bond, and there's no screws jutting through to force air bubbles and things like that. So we're on the way. Going to be a little bit hard to see in there. So obviously there's the side pockets, there's the bow of the boat up here. But so we've run the tags right around that gunnel edge there. So now that we've run all the tags, what we're going to go through is I'll give it a little bit of a sand in places, and then we're going to run all the way around that with more fiberglass to make it really, really solid. So this is the result of mixing up too hot a brew. This is a hot brew, very hot brew. She's smoking, fizzing, cracking as I speak. Gotta be careful with this sort of stuff. It can actually, I believe it can ignite. I don't think I've ever seen it ignite, but by God it gets hot. So you can imagine it's a resin, the fumes aren't good, and she's a smoker. Imagine how it's not real strong in the boat when you do a thing like that either. It tends to dry and crack a little bit easier. So not the ultimate to happen. Thought I'd show you, bud. Well, that's it. I've glassed the hull and deck together finally. So it's not much of a job, I must say. If you don't like getting dirty, messy, sticky, yucky, if you don't like fumes, if you don't like chemicals, don't even think about fiberglassing, particularly taking on a job like that where you're fiberglassing upside down in a confined area with fumes. I've had the fan running the whole time, which gives me a lot of ventilation, obviously, but that's